stay on target. Mixed martial arts is a highly complex fighting style because it combines so many different disciplines. In the same vein, EA Sports UFC series is just as deep as the sport it's emulating. EA Sports UFC and its sequel were hallmark titles that elevated fighting games. Now, EA hopes to completely revolutionize the series and the genre with EA Sports UFC 3. Previous UFC games were lauded for their realism and authenticity. While this was true at the time, they weren't perfect. The biggest knock against the games was the fact fighters couldn't move and strike at the same time. The games had great animation, but there were times when they felt somewhat stilted and unnatural. UFC 3 now employs brand new technology that arguably makes it the most realistic fighting game on the market. Real Player Motion (RPM) tech is the engine that makes the magic happen. Players can now strike while moving and create their own seamless combos. UFC 3 has over 5,000 new animations motion captured from actual league fighters. The differences aren't just visual, either. Playing the game feels a lot smoother and more responsive than before. The fact you can freely move around and strike makes a world of difference. The extra animations add another dimension of strategy and competition. Past EA Sports games going as far back as 1999 captured motions by recording in pieces. The devs would then take this data and splice it together and attempt to make it all seamless. While the technology has improved over the decades, the transitions between animations were always apparent. Now with RPM, it is nearly impossible to tell when animations go from one to the next. What you get is a game that looks incredibly real. I actually had to take a second glance when I saw the teaser trailer. To quote Sammy Sosa, "It's so real." One of the things that makes MMA so exciting is its unpredictability. Unlike boxing, MMA fights can end in an instant if a fighter lands a critical blow. The same is true in UFC 3. Players must consider fighter position, stance, and exposure at all times. A well-timed punch can get you an immediate win. Conversely, missing a crucial strike can leave you open for a finishing blow. These factors were also important in previous UFC games. In UFC 3, their impact has been significantly heightened. UFC 3 has a massive roster of over 270 fighters. This includes new champions like Demetrius Johnson and legends like BJ Penn. Each fighter's unique personalities have been captured to make each feel like their real-life counterpart. This not only includes the way fighters strut down to the octagon, but also how they fight. Players can execute the same combos of their favorite champions. This is about as close as you'll get to being Georges St. Pierre or Conor McGregor. UFC 2's most played mode was its career mode. Interestingly enough, this was also one of the community's least favorite options. UFC 3's GOAT career mode takes things to another level by making what you do outside of the ring as important as what you do in it. Players have a set amount of time in between fights. During that time, they must carefully balance when to train and when they'll promote themselves and the upcoming bout. This is something real-life UFC fighters must also do. By making time for training and promotion, players will have a better sense of what it's like to be an MMA fighter. Like any other real-world champion, you must earn your way to the top. In the World Fighting Alliance, players can knock out opponents to quickly gain the attention of UFC President Dana White. On the flip side, they can decide to spend time honing their skills before getting a contract. As they progress, players can sign and resign unique contracts to earn more money. They can then use the fight cash to promote themselves or for performance-driven objectives. There are 10 different gyms where players can train. Each one offers unique fighting discipline specialties and a roster of real UFC fighters. In gyms, players can learn and master new moves. One has the option of sticking with a specific gym or entering a new gym to learn additional movesets. Like real UFC fighters, players can create rivalries with other opponents. This helps build fans, which in turn can help set or break records. Every UFC fighter has a unique personality, and this is no different for players. They can choose to be calm and cool or a relentless promoter. Players can interact with others and post content that helps increase their reputation worldwide. Players can see the biggest highlights of their career via the all-new career milestones. UFC programs like Bad Blood and UFC Minute hosted by Megan O'Leary recount a player's career with cinematic moments. This not only includes one's best takedowns and knockouts but also their pre-fight hype and rivalries. These moments are a real treat since they genuinely feel like actual content the UFC would deliver. There are a nice variety of game modes to indulge in. One of these is UFC 2's Knockout mode. Here, players can set the amount of strikes it takes to win. Grapples and ground game are disabled. Stand bang is more or less a straight-up 5-round kickboxing match that only has strikes and no ground game. Submission shootout is the opposite, since players get to show off their ground game skills using holds, ground and pound, and submissions to win. Tournament mode is made for groups of friends. Players choose a fighter and see how many foes they can defeat. The last man standing wins. Finally, Fight Now Custom lets players control every setting and slider, from transition speed, submission speed, stamina, damage, grapple advantage, health recovery, and perks. Customization and personalization is a crucial aspect of UFC 3. Players can combine their creative fighter with real UFC fighters to create their own Ultimate Fighting roster. Thanks to the all-new fighter chemistry, it is possible to chase and pair specific moves that give boosts to fighters. Ultimate Team Solo Challenges have updated single-player challenges that unlock in-game rewards. Ultimate Team Sets let players collect thematic items and trade them in for higher-value items. UFC 3 is certainly a dense game when it comes to features and mechanics. Despite this, even folks who aren't fighting masters can have a great time. Features like practice mode and gameplay hints teach players about the game's various intricacies. The best and most unique learning tool is the tutorial videos. What's cool about these is that they are created by the actual community. Hundreds or even thousands of videos could be accessible for those yearning to get deeper into what UFC 3 has to offer. If not, simply playing with one's friends will satisfy the more casual crowd. EA Sports UFC 3 is set for a worldwide release on February 2, 2018, for Xbox One and PlayStation 4. Pre-ordering the Champions Edition gives players access to the game 3 full days before release, the choice of one current or former UFC champion in Ultimate Team, and 20 premium packs in Ultimate Team. For more information, make sure to check out the official UFC 3 website. Let us know what you like about Geek by taking our survey.